started. The hot topics: 1099 Gs, child tax credit is going to increase. I mean, nothing has been official yet. What are your thoughts on that? Just a quick overview before we actually go into more details, Timur.
Well, so what happened today was the bill that the Senate passed on Saturday passed the House. So what that means is that the provisions that were in there, which include the economic impact payment or stimulus number 3, the $1,400, that passed. And then also the thing that was really interesting is they added a exemption for unemployment. So the first 10,000 the first $10,200 of unemployment are not taxable. So every tax return we filed with unemployment is wrong. And then to even make it worse, they set it up so that if you make $150,000 or more, you don't get the unemployment non-taxable. So you have to do the whole return with all the unemployment. And if that amount's less than 150, then you can take 10,200 per spouse off the return as non-taxable unemployment and file the return. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, it's good for our offices, right? Because a lot of people aren't doing their taxes because they have the unemployment money and they didn't do any sort of withholdings. So since they had no withholdings, they don't want to do their taxes because they're going to owe money. And so what we've done is we've said, okay, now those folks aren't going to owe money because we're going to make most of their unemployment non-taxable. And so hopefully they'll come in their office, get their taxes done. You know, we can use the prior year earned income for EIC and child tax credit. But everybody that's already filed a return, those returns are wrong. And we're gonna have to go back in there and get that $10,200 off. The normal way to do it is an amendment. CNBC said, there's a little article that I can share with you guys. It says, you know, the IRS, there's a chance the IRS might update it for people and just send the money out and adjust those returns. But, you know, my guess is we'll probably still have to do some amendments to get people their money.
Yeah, that sounds like oh man, I can't wait for that, Timur. That's gonna be fun contacting everybody. But how would a ProTax Pro help out, and or what would be the easiest way to do that using your software? I know many people here use different softwares, but
Yeah.
I know with you guys make it easy, help them out, and we're still waiting guidance on that, right?
Yeah, so I'm just saying, if anybody has any questions, like throw your questions out here so we can try to answer the questions you have. But you know, the law hasn't passed yet. In order for the law to become a law, the president has to sign it. And he said he's not going to sign this bill till Friday. So IRS can't start working on anything officially until Friday. And so they said they're going to give us some sort of worksheet, possibly to do the unemployment calculation, and you know, we'll use that in the software, obviously. And one of the things we intend to do is we intend to actually go to all of our customers that have unemployment and let them know, and then offer them an amendment, because now you can e-file amendments. It still takes 8 to 12 weeks for the IRS to process an amendment, but we'll let everybody know that the amendments are available and they can e-file it and send those out. So you might want to check with your software provider and see if they do e-file amendments. And then, you know, like I said, this CNBC article that says, you know, maybe the IRS can just adjust the returns that they have. If they do that, then it won't be much for us to do. But if they're not able to, then we'll have to probably generate those amendments. And so Andrew asked if it was a 2020 unemployment. Yeah, it's 2020 unemployment. So that's why all these returns are wrong. If they just did it for 2021, you're right. We worry about it next when we do taxes, but they actually put the law for tax year 2020. So that means, again, every return that was done is going to have the potential for every return that was done with unemployment that their AGI is less than $150,000 those returns are wrong now. Well, if President Biden signs the bill on Friday, which he says he will.
Yeah, once or if and once that's passed, right? We would have to basically at that point do an amendment, and then really wait for the software as well to release that guidance from the IRS on how to go about it.
And so that's the question you ask: should we wait a week or so to file the unemployment taxes? You should wait till your software company says they've got that worksheet in and they're recalculating, because on Friday, if President Biden signs the bill, I mean, it's going to be more than a week for the IRS to tell us what to do and the software companies to all add it in there. And the dollar amount is $10,200. So it's a pretty good chunk of money, Andrew. But the thing is, right, Julio, that's exactly what they're going to do. An adjustment to line 21 for 10,200. What they'll actually do is on schedule 1, line 7, I think it is. That's where you put the unemployment compensation. You just reduce that by 10,000, because the other problem is you have to realize, Julio, is that all the states are dependent on this. So like California has a subtraction for the unemployment compensation. Wisconsin as a whole unemployment compensation subtraction worksheet. Like depending on what state you're in, you're probably subtracting the unemployment compensation. So that's the real challenge. Is just we could just Julio, reduce the income by 10,200. We actually have to reduce that Schedule 1, line 7 amount, the unemployment compensation, so all the states can track it and make sure the state returns are right too. And that's where that's kind of where the real complication comes in, is when you're trying to do with all the states.
Yeah, thank you for that update, Timur. And I know usually right now, besides the unemployment, what do I do with this? Is there going to be a worksheet? How do I go about it? As of right now, still nothing is formal yet until it's been signed and it gone into law. But I know another question usually that's been popping up is, do you think tax season will be extended, or are we going to end April 15th? I mean, who wants it to be extended?
People like sitting in their office a lot longer than they should. No, I mean, there's two schools of thought. One is, all this unemployment changes and tax law changes and has made it harder for tax preparers, and people haven't been coming to tax preparers. I think the last statistics showed like 20% down in tax returns the IRS has received. And so the idea is maybe they need to extend the season because they need to accommodate some people, but at the same time you can file an automatic extension. The extension is there. It's not hard. It's pretty simple to file an extension for your customers if you need extra time, and that gives you all the way till October. The only thing that this extension would do is let the balance due filers, give them some more time to pay. And I don't know how many people need that relief, but if Congress or IRS decides that relief is necessary, they can push out the payment deadline to June. But the idea of extending the season, Congress is talking about it. IRS and industry, we're all saying that it's not the best plan, but you never know what's going to happen when the Congress and IRS get together and Treasury and the president get together and decide what they want to do. I personally think they will extend it, honestly, just because there's a lot of people that want it extended. In people's minds, they want it extended. They don't think about just the 4868 extension. They don't think about the 9465 payment installment. They don't think about all these different things. Well, Daniela, that's the point. The extension 4868 is an extension to file, but not to pay. You're exactly right. But if they do extend the filing season until June 15th, last year they did it to July 15th. They gave everybody an extension to pay till July 15th. And so the thought is that if they extended it past April 15th, they'd be extending the time to pay in addition to time to file. And so that could confuse a lot of taxpayers and even confuse a lot of tax preparers. And, it's nice to get business. Carlos would always talk about how we want to get back to normal. Well, getting back to normal would be April 15th, right, Vincente?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping that it is April 15th, as I'm sure that a lot of my colleagues and tax preparers out there, we all wanted to end April 15th, right, everybody? I don't know if I want to do another extended tax season. although it's fun, I like to have that time off as well, get some vacation in. I mean, I know there's nowhere to go right now, but yet, but it's always nice to end on April 15th, keep that rhythm going, and having April 15th as the norm, and trying to bring back and go back to normal. We have a
Yeah.
few comments over here on Facebook. The extension tax season, is it going to come? Timur just went ahead and answered that. And more money for my pockets to amend returns. I hate to charge, but I have to. That was from Eduardo. And then we'll eventually get to the stimulus checks right now. But yeah, keep on adding your comments. Tell us where you're watching us from. Questions over here and in the Zoom platform. If you're over here.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, again, back to your question, are you talking about folks that that are getting the 1099-G forms because they were used as part of the fraud? You know, there was 30 or 40 billion dollars of unemployment claims made by fraudsters, and so states paid out, you know, 30 to 40 billion dollars of unemployment. And a lot of people are getting 1099-Gs. Like my friend got one from the state of Alabama, and he's here in California with me. He's never worked in Alabama, never lived in Alabama, but he somehow got unemployed over there, and they sent money. So if that's what you're talking about, Andrew, you know, the IRS is advising you not to put the fake 1099-Gs into your account, into your tax return, but to actually call the state that issued them and tell them that your information was used fraudulently, so the state can reissue a 1099-G with zero. Otherwise, they'll get a CP 2000 when IRS matches the 1099-Gs to the tax returns and finds that there was missing a 1099-G.
Yeah, thank you, Timur. And actually, now we have Carlos Lopez that joined us here. Mr. Lopez, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Vicente. Hi, Timur. How are you doing?
Wonderful, Carlos. Glad to see you here.
Thanks.
You know, what are you doing? Tax returns over there, Vicente said?
You know, these Zoom things are just really great, aren't they? We can still see our clients, and
These are all my 7004s I'm sending out from my corporate customers.
yeah, we did those today. We're still working on them. And then, of course, President signed he's going to sign the legislation, they say, by Friday. So that's going to be some. You guys already talked about all that?
Oh, we're just talking about it, you know, unemployment and stimulus checks and child tax credit.
Well, I think that if the IRS corrects those unemployment claims to $10,200 and reduces it without having millions of taxpayers get amended returns, it'll be the first time in the history of the US where the government actually changed the tax return for the better. Because that's what they're going to do. If the only challenge that one of the many challenges that I see, but the most prominent is, let's say that when you were preparing the return and you used the previous year income to make the adjustment for the earned income tax credit, those are going to have to be amended because you used the prior year. If reducing the current year unemployment by 10,200 increases the refund, and then you can use Timur software to file the amended return electronically.
Yeah, because, you know, EIC is calculated two ways. Once on the earned income, and then if you're on the upper income side, a second time with the adjusted gross income.
Yeah.
So if you drop the adjusted gross income by $10,000 or $20,000, a lot of people that had their earned income credit limited are going to have it freed up so they can take advantage of a higher earned income tax credit.
Right. So there's going to be a lot of fun coming up here.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah, that'll be fun back at our tax offices.
Yeah.
I know that's been the number one question. How are we going to go about it? How do I even exclude these 10,200? Timur went a little bit over that. There might be some worksheets. But yeah, I mean that's been the $1 million question right now as well. Speaking of
The
million
$10,200 question.
oh, yeah, exactly. And then in addition to that, an additional 1,400, the stimulus payment. I know that's something that's been really hot right now. There's new phase outs. Well, according to the reports out, um, 1,400, and is that per child, per adult?
It's for
Do they get
everybody.
any? What about the mixed status families?
I don't know if they addressed that, did they, Carlos?
They didn't, from the information that I've received, I haven't seen anything on that, on the mixed status, on the I-10 holders. However, California, the Governor Newsom signed in a $5.6 billion relief bill. And if you made under 30,000, you can get up to $600 per person, whether you're an I-10 holder or a Social Security or have a Social Security number. So that's going to be a big one too.
Yeah, I think Maryland's got something like that too.
Yeah, that definitely helps out, especially out here in California. There's a lot of people that have been asking for it. And Mr. Lopez, what are some of the requirements for somebody here in California specifically to obtain those $600? Is there
Yes.
limits?
The main requirement is you have to file a tax return. That's how they're going to determine your eligibility, is by filing a tax return. So whether you're an I-10 holder, Social Security recipient, if you want that California stimulus payment, you need to file a return. And if it's difficult or expensive, I know California has a free file on their website, ftb.ca.gov, and you can file one there.
Thank you. And I know one of the other questions as well is, I know personally I've had clients coming in and asking, the child tax credit, is that too late for me to get it? Because it bumped up from 2,000 to 3,000. I know that's part of the new package.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Mr. L, or feedback?
Yeah, it's going to be up to $3,600 per child. But that's going to be for this year, 2021. So that won't kick in until you file your taxes next year.
Right. So it doesn't affect the returns we're filing now like the unemployment does.
Right.
And employment affects all the tax returns we're filing in 2021. This
Right.
child tax credit will affect you when you do in 2022.
Yeah, and the rules will be the same. It's for children from 5 years old up to from up to 17 years old. So the year they turn 17, that credit will phase out. That didn't change.
So we have a question here. Is it true that the child tax credit will increase from 3,000 to 3,600 for children under 6 for 2020 tax year? Or will it be for 2021?
That's what we're saying.
So let me
21.
give you the exact numbers. It's going to be for 2021. And it's going to be as much as $3,600 for children up to the age of 5. And up to $3,000 for the children of 6 to 17. So there's 2 tiers, up to 5 and then 6 to 17.
And Carlette, you're asking about the periodic payments. The way I understand, I haven't studied it that closely, but the IRS is supposed to be sending those periodic payments starting July 1st. So if the IRS can get their systems together to do that, they need to do it July 1st. But you have to realize the IRS has to deal with, the $1,400 payments, the EIP3. They have to deal with the reduction of the unemployment benefits. And then I think they can start thinking about, advanced child tax credit payments that have come out in 2021. But those, again, wouldn't affect us as tax preparers until we do their 2021 tax return in 2022, next year.
Awesome. Thank you, Timur, for that information. And Here's another question from Lisbeth. Will a head of household only with an ITIN number be eligible for the 1,400 stimulus payment, or would it have to be a mixed family?
That's a good question. We'll look into that. And then I'll put you can contact us at info@latinotaxpro.org, because all these things change so fast. I don't want to give out information and then later on find out it's wrong. So let me put that.
Yeah, I just got a copy of the House bill yesterday from my Congresswoman. I asked her for it and she emailed it to me. But
Did you
they
read
passed it on. I was bored the other night. No, I looked at some of the tax provisions, but they passed it on Saturday and it didn't actually get published until yesterday. And then the House just passed it, so that won't come out for a few more days too.
I'm getting some requests on Facebook to give a breakdown of the unemployment again. Do you mind doing that again, Timur? Go ahead.
Yeah, so what happens is if your income is less than $150,000, adjusted gross income, and the trick is it's the adjusted gross income that includes the unemployment, all of it, then you can go back and reduce the amount of unemployment you're reporting on that Schedule 1, Line 7 by $10,200 for each taxpayer. So if you had two spouses unemployed, each spouse could reduce their unemployment by up to $10,200. If you had one spouse that was unemployed, receive unemployment, you could reduce it by $10,200. And then you recalculate the return based on that $10,200 reduction. And then, like Carlos said, if you had refundable credits like earned income tax credit that was limited by your AGI, those would recalculate. If you had any other tax provisions that are, like the medical interest deduction on Schedule A or medical expense deduction on Schedule A, so on and so forth, then you would reduce that. And Elizabeth, we don't know yet because IRS hasn't given any, Biden hasn't signed the law yet. And so we don't know if you'll just put 0 or you'll have to put some sort of on the 1040, you'll put PYEI if you're using the prior year earned income for EIC. We have to wait for what the IRS tell us what to do and how to report that. But yeah, in essence, if they have less than $10,200 of unemployment and they have less than $150,000 of AGI, then yeah, you wouldn't report any of that unemployment, Elizabeth.
I think the way the IRS is going to do this, and this is Timur's area, is it's going to have the software. You're going to have to input it, and then the software will deduct it somewhere down further before you get to taxable income. So it'll show it as unemployment, and then I believe somewhere lower, maybe line 21 or somewhere down there, it'll say, well, it used to be line 21. I think it still is.
Yeah.
It'll
the
say,
problem with that, Carlos, before you got here, I was talking about the problem is the states. And, a lot of states have a subtraction for unemployment compensation. And in their computers, they check that unemployment compensation subtraction on the state return against what's on Schedule 1, Line 7.
yeah,
And so if the IRS just backs it out on line 21, you have to back out the taxable portion, not the non-taxable portion. And so you'd have a mismatch between your federal and your state return, and then all the states would go crazy. So I think they have to do a worksheet where you just adjust line 7. But you're right. That's another way to do it, is to put another negative other income and put it in there.
yeah. Well, that's why I said that, because I know that's how the states make the adjustment on their adjustment form, is it backs out all of the unemployment. But then if you have a unemployment back out on line 21 on the 1040, that also then will go over to the state form, and you'll have a double back out.
Or you'd have to add it back in. It would just make the states are where the complication are.
Yeah. Yay.
So Elizabeth, you asked, what about those returns we've already done? Well, there's an article at CNBC that I posted earlier in the chat that says, maybe the IRS can just do it. Carlos said it'd be the first time the government paid you money out of a return adjustment. Or, we have to send amendments in. That's the only two ways it's going to get done.
Yeah. Yeah, why, it just, this is the government not thinking and wanting to give everybody money real quick, which I think is good. But yeah, this is going to be a logistical challenge for the IRS, but they've done pretty good in the past. So I don't knock them too much, but this is going to be a good one. Now, this is a rumor I heard, so that they'll probably have their systems ready by March 17th
IRS?
Yeah.
So the other thing, Carlos, I was telling him earlier is this is actually good for tax preparers because, a lot of people don't want to come in and get their taxes done because they figure they're going to owe money from their unemployment.
Yeah.
And so the last numbers I saw, tax business was down over 20%. And I bet it's all these people saying we're these unemployment 1099-Gs and saying, oh, I'm not going to get a refund. Why go see my tax preparer? Well, now you can subtract out 10,000 or 20,000 for a married couple. These people are going to be back in refund zone, back in your door. This is a time for tax preparers to be out marketing to the customers that didn't come in and reminding them that you're there and you can help them. Or if they went online and tried to do it, you can help them with the amendment or get their unemployment backed out so they can get the maximum refund, because that's something people aren't going to know about.
Yeah. Now everybody that's listening, oh, there's Lizbeth. Hi, you're asking good questions there. And if you hover your mouse towards the bottom, you'll see where there's a chat going on where it says more. I believe, is that where it is? Yeah. Click on that because there's a real interesting conversation going on here on the side.
Yeah. Open your chat window. That's a good point. Anything from Facebook?
Yeah.
So we'll Pro Tax Pro send out a patch for $10,200 adjustment. So our software is exclusively online. So as soon as that bill passes and we get some clarity from the IRS about how they want us to calculate it and report it, we'll just magically push that into our servers. I guess it's not magic, but it seems like magic because you don't have to do anything as a tax preparer to get a patch. It automatically affects all the returns that go out. And like I was saying earlier, our plan is to actually send out an email to all of our customers once we get guidance from IRS that IRS is going to fix it, or they need to send out amendments. If they need to do amendments, we can prep all those amendments and have them ready, and you just come in and make sure everything else is right and file them. But for the ones that are still filing, are yet to be filed, I'd say wait. If you have a customer with unemployment, don't hit the e-file button. Wait till you get confirmation from your software company that they've got the new law implemented. Which, like Carlos said, if IRS is ready on the 17th, that's the first time anybody can do it. So you're probably going to wait at least a week or two.
And we have a question from Faith for you, Timur. Will Tax Pro send out a patch for the 10,200 adjustment?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We don't send out patches. We just update the software ourselves. And then the nice thing about being online is everybody gets it. You don't have to wait for that to download or patch or update or risk turning your office off for an hour for the software to pick up the new change. Once we push it in there, it's instantaneous and everybody benefits from it.
Yeah, thank you. And then I'd like to take this time too as well to acknowledge everybody that's following us on Facebook from Texas, New York, looks like Florida as well, in the Midwest, Chicago. All these areas are following us, watching us live on Facebook. And we have an actual question that says, what are the ages of the $1,400 stimulus payment? Is there an age limit?
No, I don't believe there is an age limit.
But I think the EIP too, right? If you're over 17, then you didn't get it as a dependent, right? Because there's filed child tax credit eligibility for dependents. And I think this one does too, but I'm not sure. You'd have to double check. But that's the thing, right? If you were a 19-year-old and you were on your parents' tax return, your parents claimed you didn't get the 2 stimulus checks in 2020. But if you file your own return, now you can claim the recovery rebate credit and get that $1,800. So I've been telling people, make sure you read the qualifications for a dependent. And if that person is really not your dependent, they might benefit from filing their own tax return and getting that recovery rebate credit. And in this case, also enroll them for this new $1,400 payment too. Have you seen that, Carlos, in your office?
I haven't seen it in the office I work in. How about you, Vicente? Have you seen it in your office?
Yeah, we've had situations where the son has maybe some income, and at times, yes, it does benefit them to just go for the recovery rebate credit. And at this point, without them being a dependent, I'm not. I guess that we're gonna wait and see the guidance if they will qualify, if they got if they got claimed as a dependent, right? But in our situation, we've had the students file their own tax return independently from the parent to claim the credit.
Yeah,
But in this case, we've had students with income.
that's what I've seen in my office also, is the children filed their own returns and the parents took them off of their returns so the kids could get the stimulus payment.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, is you really have to think about that, because that, we're talking $1,800 plus $1,400. That's at $3,200. Is that right, Carlos?
Yeah,
That, that 19-year-old could be eligible for if they're not a dependent on the parent's tax return. And, the dependent exemption's gone now. You just get a few extra dollars of deduction, which probably doesn't add up to $3,200.
no.
So, Melinda, that's a good question. The IRS is reviewing a lot of tax returns. If you had a recovery rebate credit on your tax return, it's going through a manual review process where the IRS is verifying that your recovery rebate credit is accurate. And then the other thing is, if you use the prior year earned income for the EITC or for the child tax credit, they're going through that. So there's a little bit of slowdown of the refund processing and return processing, because they're looking at some of those returns to make sure they're accurate and right.
Yeah, it's unusually slow also because, the IRS didn't start processing refundable credits until February 12th.
Well, any returns.
Yeah, any refund return. So, this is the latest start I've seen in my career. And so I'm sure there's a huge backlog, and they're manually checking a lot of these returns that get kicked out from the systems that they use, the DIF, to find returns that look out of whack. So it's a slow process. And
and Elizabeth, if you look at I don't know, Carlos, this is probably a good plug for Latino Tax Pro Education and Ask a Tax Pro. Elizabeth's asking, the dependent and the parent live in the same household, can they still file their own taxes? And, if you follow the tree of qualifications for a dependent, if you live in the same household, you don't have to be dependent primary. But I think Latino Tax Pro, Carlos, you probably have a lot of good resources out there about who's a dependent, who's not. And
right.
the IP membership that they offer is just fantastic, because you just pick up the phone and talk to a tax pro. He's got EAs out here in California that are ready to help and do that. So we advise folks to, get a VIP membership so you can ask these questions, get quick answers, because that's a big deal. I mean, $3,200 is a pretty good chunk of change. You want to make sure you do it right.
Yeah, that's a lot more than and thank you, Timur. Also, Timur's, we work with Timur's Pro Tax Pro, so that you can get a membership to Latino Tax Pro and also use his software. But it's a lot more. The kids are getting $3,200. That's a lot more than what the parents would get with a 19-year-old, let's say, exemption. So in California, the exemption is what, $312, I think, something like that. So
Yeah, and then, I mean, the fact is too, I think if they file a California return, that Golden Gate credit that you were talking about earlier, I mean, that emancipated dependent, I don't know what you want to call them, but the person filing their own tax return now would be eligible for that as well.
yeah,
So again, you know, a lot of people, at least in my experience, I always thought that, you know, kind of like Lizbeth's question, like if you live with your parents, you know, they paid for your, you know, half of your living expenses. Well, guess what? Too bad you were a dependent, right? But I think that if you make more than, I forget the income limit is, but you probably know, Carlos, but then you can also choose not to be a dependent. And so there is flexibility in the law and the rules. You don't have to just do it because you buy your kid food and water all the time, pay for their video games.
someone told me today that I should buy a PlayStation with those goggles on it, so I can relieve some of my stress.
I have a daughter who's turning 8 on Sunday and a son who's 5.5, and they can't stop playing this Roblox game. And so Roblox stock just came out. My wife bought some. She's like, I don't know, these kids won't get off the thing. This thing's going to make money. So she bought some. We'll see how it happens. Pay some capital gains tax, hopefully.
Nice. Yeah. Roadblocks, right? I did hear about that as well. But we have another question here saying, going back to the dependents, where'd it go? Going back to the dependents and older with no income, can they file for the stimulus? I've had some replies back on the Facebook comments saying they can use go to the irs.gov and do a non-filer. So it looks like they can definitely do that. Thank you, Gilbert, for that and providing the website. You can see that in our comments on our Facebook page. Timur, are they able to do a non-filer with your software?
So what IRS is saying is that they don't want people to do non-filer returns, right? Because what the non-filer return was, if you just know you don't file a tax return, you could go put $1 in for interest and send that return off in 2019. What I think IRS found out was a lot of these people had enough income that they might be eligible for the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit or some other sort of benefit. So what the IRS is asking is that you actually do the tax return. And even if your income is below the filing limit, right? Maybe you have some withholdings you can get back or some earned income tax credit you're eligible for. And so they're asking people just to actually file their actual tax return to get those monies. And the other thing too is, you know, if you don't file a 2020 return, you know, I think they can use a 2019 return to determine your eligibility for this $1,400 check. So as long as you've got your, you know, one of these two returns, and if you have the 2020, it's better because they'll use more current data, make sure your bank account number is right, so on and so forth. But if you don't do that, they might go back to the 2019 information to send you a payment.
Yeah, and then we have another comment here. If a taxpayer doesn't file a 2020 because they didn't work or collected unemployment, would they be eligible for the $1,400 stimulus? Well, remember everybody, it's the IRS who's going to finally make the final determination on all this. So my reaction to this is if they collected unemployment, file that return. Now, if they didn't work, what do you guys think? Should they file a return to try to get the stimulus?
So, you know, if they receive Social Security or veterans benefits, the IRS has a deal with Social Security and veterans to get that information to make those payments. And then, like I said, if they had a 2019 return, then they could do that. But if there's no 2019 return, no 2020 return, no VA, no Social Security, that's what the non-filer tool was for, and I don't think they have it anymore. You can just file a return with $1 of interest and send it in with the bank account number, and then you'd at least have a return on file. $1 of interest is not going to cost you any taxes because you'll get it all backed out of standard deduction. So that's how the non-filer tool worked last year.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we said, the law was signed, no, it hasn't been signed yet, but it was given to the president. So it really isn't a law until it gets signed. So, and everybody says he's going to sign it. But what we're doing now is we're speculating on what we believe to be true. So we'll see when the final law gets signed. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of services sending out synopsis and outlines and things that we need to know.
Yeah, well, like Carlos said, you want to manage your customers' expectations too, because we're getting phone calls all day long as a software company from preparers and taxpayers saying, "Hey, why did you file my full unemployment?" or this and everything. Like, well, the law, it's not a law yet, it hasn't been passed. And so until that happens, until we learn how to handle it, we can't jump the gun.
Right.
What's the best resource, Melinda? Latino Tax Pro. I mean, just stay clued into what the Carlos and his team put out. I mean, if you're on this webinar, hopefully you're on their subscription list. So yeah, they have a tax hotline. You got to be a member though. You used to be a member a few years. Sign back up.
Yeah.
Lisbeth. Thumbs up if you're going to sign back up, Lisbeth.
Yeah.
There you go. Gotcha. I got a sale, Carlos.
I'll send you a commission check.
Sounds good. So Jasmine, a filer doesn't qualify for stimulus claims parent on SSI independent. Will the parent receive? See, I don't think that's the case. I think if the parent's a dependent, then they're not going to get the stimulus. I think that's how it works. But I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it.
Yeah, I don't think in that question, the parent will receive $1,400. But I don't know. Like I said, it's so up in the air. It's hard to say. But file a return.
Carla, you said that's right. So Carla says we're right. So
yeah, Carlette says that's true. Okay. Parent does not receive. Yeah.
Takes a village, huh, Carlos?
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
So then we have a few more questions on Facebook. One of them says, if a taxpayer arrived on the U.S. on a work permit around October 2020, when filing taxes, do they qualify for the recovery rebate?
October of 2020.
But are they a permanent resident? I think you have to be a citizen or permanent resident, right?
Yeah.
If you're just here on a work visa, I don't think you're eligible.
Yeah.
Just like if you're a U.S. citizen overseas, I don't think you're eligible. I think you have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident on U.S. soil.
Good info. Thank you, Roxana, for that question on Facebook. Then, and then what about babies born in 2020? Are they eligible for getting the recovery rebate?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when the baby is born. It could be born on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. and that they count as if they were here for the whole year.
Actually, Carlos, if they're born up to January 1st, there's a weird little loophole in the tax code. Let you be born up to January 1st, I think. Somehow, if you're born on January 1st, you're considered born in the prior year for taxes. Those kids get to collect child tax credit one extra year too.
Wow. I've
Because
vaguely heard that before. That rings that knocks off some dust in my brain. I think you're right.
Yeah. So January 2021, you'd have to probably wait for the recovery rebate credit to file for them, Lupe.
Well, here's a good question about DACA recipients. From what I understand, they do have a work permit, but they're not eligible for any government benefits. So I don't think they'll be able to get the stimulus, but we'll see.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And this has been this is still ongoing. We don't know exactly until it becomes law and we get more guidance. As long as Timur, Latino Tax Pro, will definitely be delivering news. Hopefully, all of you. And if you're not, subscribe to our newsletter. Also, subscribe to the newsletters from Timur, especially if you use their software. They're going to be releasing all this information as soon as it passes. The president signs it, and we'll definitely be tuning in again to recap on that
Well, in 2 weeks, we're scheduled, right, Vicente, on the 23rd at 10 a.m. California
Yes.
time?
Yes, every
2
fourth
o'clock
Tuesday of the month.
Eastern, or that's 1 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10
Eastern
o'clock
time.
Pacific.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
we
then
should
by
have
that
some
time,
guidance by then.
I was gonna say, by that time, hopefully we'll know what to do.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
think so, Timur?
You know, I told my wife I don't know how to do anything, so I'm just gonna stick with that.
Well, the way things are changing nowadays, man, it's really a challenge. Oh, question here real quick. I want to answer this. The H-2B visa holders are not DACA. H-2B visa holders are here with, with all the rights of, they qualify for everything that the government has. So it's different situation. Same thing with the H-2A workers.
Awesome. Yeah. But thank you, Timur, Mr. Lopez. We'll definitely be tuning in again in a couple of weeks. Make sure to keep an eye out for that link, register. We're also going to be live on Facebook. Questions, keep them coming so we can have another discussion a little bit further. And by that time, hopefully we have some more concrete answers on what to do and how to go about it. Thank you, everybody. I know everybody's super busy. Thank you, Timur, for taking some time out. Mr. Lopez, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
And we'll see you on the next live.
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.